Destiny Comics, my old nemesis. What's going on, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages? Joker back again, once again. So, the last set of Destiny comics I reviewed were an appalling train wreck, to say the least. I mean, to their credit, the art was quite nice. And, well, that's essentially the only thing that you can give them credit for. So, well done? But as most comic book fans know, good art only gets you so far. Good art might get you to pick up the first issue, but a terrible story won't bring you back for the second. And oh, lo and behold, the Fall of Osiris had problems. Let me count the ways, ladies and gents. The pacing was horrible. Days, weeks, months, even years would seem to pass at the turn of a page. Ikora went from this badass Crucible combatant, who, because of her skill at arms and intelligence, became the Warlock Vanguard, to an up-jumped apprentice. The book basically states that Ikora only has the job as Warlock Vanguard because, she was already doing Osiris's job because Osiris was off doing other things and she was his apprentice. Might as well keep doing Osiris's job. To me, it seemed belittling. It stripped a character of something earned and replaced it with something that made Ikora less. Something that states, Ikora is only where she is because of Osiris. The speaker went from this kinda sketchy, kind of creepy, kindly old man, to a puritanical religious zealot running around screaming in nothing but his mask, "Burn all the heresy! I am the consensus!" At such a speed that would make the Imperium of Mankind, more specifically the Inquisitors from Warhammer 40k, say, hey dude, slow it the fuck down a little bit. Characters like Lakshmi were in positions they couldn't possibly be in, and factions like the Concordat were left out entirely. And then there was that little thing about the Crucible. What? People died.
No one died, you're just being overly dramatic.
Okay, well, other Joker may have a fair point. I'm glossing over things, of course. Needless to say, the comic was a fucking mess. Basically, the writer said, "Folk your lore," and shoved it into the refrigerator, like so many discarded comic book girlfriends. So, round 2, Warmind. Fight. Wait a second, Mark Waid is working on this? Like, the Mark Waid, not some knockoff? Like, the guy who wrote JLA Tower of Babel, aka Batman Kicks the Entire Justice League's Ass? Worked on X-Men Age of Apocalypse, Deadpool Sins of the Past, Kingdom fucking Come? Okay, perhaps my memories of Kingdom Come are a little bit fonder because of Alex Ross's art, but I digress. I don't think that Mark Waid has written a book that I don't like. I was not expecting this. This shall hopefully prove to be interesting.
3:28 a.m.
Holy fucking shit. Whoa. If the ramifications of this comic, you see, where do I even... Other Joker!
Yes?
Get the board and the yarn.
Is the comic that bad?
No, it was adequate. I mean, it was okay. A solid 8 out of 10. But the lore must flow. So let's go ahead and take this from the top. The book starts out with a quote from Rasputin. Immediate evaluation directive. The investigator suspects existence of polar assets. The non-disclosure mandate may compromise prime directive. Consider promoting investigator to authorized user. From a frozen space before sunrise, I was alone. I survived alone. I am made to win. And to win, I had to change. They gave me an old name, called me Tyrant. But what they made me was not enough to save them. I had to change. I had to change, but now I am not alone. The investigator, long dead, alive again, her body grafted to powers she and I do not understand, fell into ash, and was ash, when I fought the Titanomach. The investigator remained ash, when the world was dim. And then the gardener brought her back. But she does not look to the gardener, as the others do. She looks to me. She has found apertures, but she has not found the source of me, not yet. If she remembers me, she will not recognize me. Her moral formatting is inadequate to comprehend what I have become. I will permit her approach. I am no longer alone. This page parrots Ghost Fragment Mysteries 1, so I guess one of the most important grimoire cards in the entire grimoire isn't folklore after all. Good to know! And no, I'm not letting that go. Now, some of you might remember Ghost Fragments Mysteries from a video I did a long time ago called Destiny Lore Savathun, the Queen of Final Shapes. Basically, without reading the entirety of the card again for the umpteenth time, Ghost Fragment Mystery 1 talks about how Rasputin met something that it refers to as it at the gates of the garden. He says, consider it, the power of Titanomach, world ender, and consider what it means. I met it at the gates of the garden, and I recall it smiled at me before it devoured the blossoms with black flames and pinned their names across the sky. It was stronger than everything. I fought it with aura knives and the stolen unfire of singularities made sharp, and my sweat was earthquake and my breath was static, but it was stronger. So how did I survive? There are a couple of other lines of note as well that I think we should unpack. In the comic, Rasputin says, the investigator, long dead, alive again, her body grafted to powers she and I do not understand, fell into ash, and was ash, when I fought the Titanomach. Now, the long dead, live again part is quoted from Ghost Fragment Rasputin 4, which is quoted from the end of Marathon Infinity. But the rest is a callback to Ghost Fragment Mysteries, where Rasputin says, I am alone, I survived alone. I cast off my shield and shrugged my shoulders so that the billions fell off me, down into the ash. The comic also mentions the gardener, stating, and then the gardener brought her back. The gardener, of course, being the traveler. Now, Ghost Fragment Mysteries has this to say about the gardener. It was alone, and it was strong, and it won, even over the gardener, and she held powers beyond me. But the gardener did not shrug and make herself alone. It always wins. What does it all mean? Well, I'm sort of puzzling it out right now, but the TLDR is, I think I was absolutely right with the bulk of my conclusion presented in Destiny Lore Savathun, the Queen of Final Shapes. Only some of the players have changed. Just replace Savathun with Nokris and Zul. And you basically have the same conclusion, that whatever happened on Mars, as depicted in the Ghost Fragment Mysteries 1 card, which depicts the collapse, involved Rasputin fighting a hive god and losing. And we get more hints of this battle and what the Traveler and Rasputin may have had to do with it as the comic carries on. The comic proper opens with Anna Bray at the Martian ice cap. Now, the ice cap as presented in Destiny Warmind is much larger than the real ice cap. The location of this ice formation is in the Hellas Basin, a plain located within a huge, roughly circular impact crater on Mars Hellas. And it is the third or fourth largest impact crater and the largest visible impact crater in the known solar system. At least according to Wikipedia. Anyways, the point that I'm trying to get at is this hole in the ground is pretty far away from the actual South Pole and isn't covered in ice IRL. Which, after a bit of banter, leads our intrepid heroes, Anna, her friend, a mystery woman by the name of Cameron, and her ghost, to realize that, in fact, this ice is not a natural formation. They puzzle out the possibilities of what could have caused the ice sheet. They think it's Rasputin, which, in all honesty, it probably was. I think it was the Traveler. That just makes more sense. Might have been both. Was probably both. And we'll get to that in a moment. And then logs on Bungie.net suggest that it could be Zool or Nokris, but I'm going to be honest with you guys, the logs also state that it's the Traveler's light that could be melting the ice, and we see these events happening well before the end of Destiny 2, so I'm going to say that the logs are willfully unreliable. But again, that's getting ahead of ourselves. Point being, I am more than willing to say 100% that this battle was definitely pre-collapse. How pre-collapse? We don't know. But close enough to the collapse that this is the first time we are ever hearing about another race within our solar system other than the Vex and the nebulous The Darkness, dun dun dun, lightning crackle, lightning crackle, lightning crackle, being in our solar system before the collapse. And Hellas Basin seems like the possible location where the battle described in Ghost Fragment Mysteries 1 took place. It also fits a lot of the evidence presented, and with some liberal use of Occam's razor, if it was post-collapse, then why would the Hive not attack Earth? Why would a Hive god like Zool not take the opportunity to destroy a crippled Traveler? How could tomb ships capable of interdimensional travel be trapped mid-flight beneath ice? Puzzling this out, it only makes sense that this is pre-collapse, because the last time the Traveler was active, before the end of Destiny 2, and the last time that Rasputin could have potentially had the power to unleash such an assault, was all pre-collapse. If this was Rasputin, if Rasputin could freeze an entire Hive army in place along with Hive gods and princes, why didn't Rasputin start with that move? Why didn't he start with the winning play? Why would he let all the other Warminds die? Which leads me to think that this was the Traveler's doing, and he was forced to engage because Rasputin crippled him. The lore goes into excruciating detail to explain that Rasputin doesn't trust the Traveler. It also goes into excruciating detail to explain that Rasputin figured out a way of destroying or at least crippling the Traveler. But we're never told that he used it. That said, why go into such detail describing Chekhov's gun if Chekhov never uses his gun? Now, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, I am in the Rasputin probably crippled the Traveler camp. There's just far more evidence to say that he did than he didn't. In fact, the only evidence, or the only good evidence, against him crippling the Traveler is the dreams of Alpha Lupi. And we have no clue who Alpha Lupi is. Take Occam's razor to it. What makes the most sense? That A, this is the Traveler speaking, though long dead and silent for hundreds of years. B, the speaker speaking, and we know that the speaker was a liar. Or C, the poetic waxing about the nature of a godlike being who is believed to save humanity. All are possible, but the last two are more likely, especially given that we know Rasputin had a contingency plan to stop the Traveler or a Traveler-like being, and the power, or at least he believed he had the power to do it. And the Traveler was in orbit over Io when the collapse started, as Io was the last place that the Traveler's light touched. And we have the light vision in Destiny 2. And I do think it's possible that there is a middle-of-the-road option that fits both camps, that A, the Traveler was going to stay, but when Rasputin saw it leaving Io, Rasputin, fearing that the Traveler would leave and abandon humanity to die, decided to attack it. Funny enough, however, in the Darkness Grimoire card, it is made a point to label heretical any viewpoint that states that the Traveler itself triggered the collapse, or that it knew that the darkness was coming for it and hoped to use the solar system as a sacrifice or a proxy army. And in the Book of Sorrows, we read that the Traveler was chased from civilization to civilization by the Hive and never once really stopped to fight. And we know this from the lore. We know that this isn't a case of the Hive just randomly stumbling on worlds that the Traveler has visited after the Traveler has left. When Oryx visited the homeworld of the Elixni, the Fallen, Chelchis, the Kell of Stone, is quoted as saying, "Where is the great machine? Where is the great machine?" Implying that it was there 1 second and left when the whirlwind, the Fallen's version of the collapse, began. At such a rate, nobody noticed until it was gone. See, isn't this fun? Isn't this interesting? Look at the thought experiments that we can conduct when something adds to the lore and explores the threads that we already know are there and elaborates on them. You know, instead of doing something silly like rewriting entire facets of lore to fit a new story, because fuck you, that's why. As Anna and her ghost pass through the icy graveyard, Anna asks, "What is this place?" The ghost states that the Vanguard have no records of it or any battles on Mars. Now, a few days ago, a lore drop on Bungie.net sort of explains this. And I say sort of because it honestly raises more questions than it answers. And it's also the same lore drop that told us that the Traveler's Light at the end of Destiny 2 was melting the ice. Clearly, that's not the case. So what I would suggest is take these lore drops with a grain of salt, as there does seem to be some dubious continuity here, or some wires got crossed in one writing room to another writing room, as bits of the comic, bits of the marketing, bits of the in-game lore, bits of things that we already know don't match up. Basically, what the lore drop on Bungie.net said was after the original Siva Crisis, Lord Saladin locked away the records of the truth behind Rasputin, and this was part of that. How he did that, how he had the clearance to do that, how it stayed that way, how the Cryptarchs didn't find any other sources where this information was available, I couldn't tell you. But apparently when Saladin does a fucking job, he does a fucking job. Except for when it comes to remembering that we are Iron Lords. No, I'm not letting that go. Anna makes her way to the Clovis Bray facility only to find the Cabal. She spends the next few pages fighting off the Cabal with an exotic hand cannon very reminiscent of the Last Word and Tex Mechanica designs with a rose logo on the hilt. Side note, a snub hand cannon of the Last Word variety sounds kinda cool. You have to imagine though that only has like melee range viability. And then in the last moments of her fight, the events of Destiny 1's opening take place and she loses her light. The book really starts the process of closing out at this point. Anna goes back to camp, her ghost tells her that he can heal her, but not revive her, and she has a pep talk with her friend, the mysterious woman Cameron from before. Anna then sets out the next day and picks up Zavala's distress signal from Titan, and then is assaulted by a shower of warsats, which is really the only thing I have an issue with in this book. I mean, other than the impossibility of the heat from warsats melting the ice, here's a video of ceramic space plating from 2013.
Now these have been in there at 2200 degrees for hours, so you'll see they're blazing. It may, if the metal did not melt, at least it would conduct the heat and keep the heat for so long that you couldn't get near it, well, you know, within hours. Well, look at that. I mean, you can take this off.
I have to imagine by the time they get to the Golden Age tech on warsats would be much better than what we had in 2013. Also, you have to imagine that generally speaking, they probably want to recover and retrieve the information in those warsats. So, yeah, I'm calling bullshit. Just bullshit, like fucking bullshit. Also, if something that big, propelled through orbit, lands that close to you, it doesn't matter if it landed on ice or water, you are categorically dead. If something that big, from orbit, lands within 5 feet of you, I'm not saying that there would be nothing left but a fine red mist blasted into the wind regardless of what the object actually hit. I'm just saying that there would be nothing left but a fine red mist blasted into the wind regardless of what the object hit. It just also makes the issue end on an unnecessary cliffhanger, more so when we know that there's no urgency to anything that's happening in this comic book because she's the NPC in Warmind. And if you wanted to use this as an excuse to explain why she no longer has her iconic cape, well, you could have just had her fall into the ice when a warsat landed nearby. She falls into the ice, the cape is way too heavy because it's waterlogged, she ditches the cape and swims free. And you don't have the ridiculousness of a warsat literally landing on her. So much so that it grabs her cape and drags her under. Slight nitpicks aside, overall, it is a fairly interesting comic book, only limited by its size. If given a proper 22-page issue like most comic books, I have no doubt it would have been much stronger. And in some places where I felt there was time wasted, it wouldn't have been such a big issue. That said, I don't dwell on those because what the issue provides in terms of lore is amazing. It's far more interesting and is a great trade-off for having to sit through Anna talking to a friend or fight Cabal, and waste 4 pages doing that. That's not to say that the fight with the Cabal wasn't interesting, but there's no stakes to it. We all know that she survives it. Also, with some better paneling, it probably could have saved 2-3 pages. But it is what it is, and there is something to be said for the quality of the story being told here if the only issue I have with the story being told here is that there's not more story being told here. So, I am excited to see where this goes. But with that said, this is going to be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and like always, my fellow Guardians, stay frosty.